Yes. Hello, Venkatnath sir, my voice is clear. Hello?
Yeah, it is clear. Voice
Clear,
is
sir.
clear.
Oh,
Voice is clear. Audio is also clear.
okay, sir. Okay. The attendance link is active. I request all the participants to fill the attendance link as well as feedback link at the end of the session.
Good morning, Professor Vegat Nath.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Rajinikanth, sir.
Good morning. Very sorry, today suddenly my desktop is giving some problem.
No problem, sir.
Sir, Rajinikanth garu.
Yeah.
Sir, are you going to share that PowerPoint presentation or let me do it? Whatever you feel convenient.
I can share. I'm just trying to log in from desktop,
Okay.
but some problem with my desktop. Meeru Gmail pampichara ID.
Already sent it, sir.
Sent it.
Sent
Just,
it, and I kept the same thing even in the WhatsApp group also.
No, I'll try to log in if I see. Yesterday the mail bane undi. Suddenly today some problem, glitch.
Okay, sir. No problem. Okay.
I can share my PPT from my mobile also. There is no issue.
Okay, sir.
I'll just check whether Gmail వచ్చిందేమో చూస్తాను నేను. Just give me 2 minutes. If I can't get in from PC, I'll get in from my Gmail రాలేదండి.
I sent it, sir. Once again, I will send.
Okay. Just give me 2 minutes, sir. I'll.
Okay.
వచ్చిందండి, వచ్చింది. No. It has not yet come. You can start, sir, anyway. If I am not able to get in from PC, I'll start doing it from my mobile itself. Okay.
Okay, sir.
You can start because already it is 10:04, so I don't want to waste any more time.
Okay, sir.
I'll take it from my mobile.
Okay, sir. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Good morning to the participants. We welcome all of you to the second day of the faculty development program. Today we have two sessions, one by Professor Rajinikanth garu, the second one by Dr. Varalakshmi madam. The first session will be taken by Professor Rajinikanth sir. Now I request Dr. S. Janardhan to introduce Professor Rajinikanth sir. Please, Janardhan.
Thank you, Professor Venkatnath. It is my honor and privilege to introduce Dr. K. Rajinikanth. Has received his Bachelor of Engineering with a specialization in electrical field from Sri Venkateswara University, Tirupati. Later, he completed his ME and PhD degree from School of Automation from IISc Bangalore. He also held various academic positions in leading roles such as professor and head principal and advisor for MS Ramaya Institute of Technology, Bangalore, and Kakatiya Institute of Technology and Science, Warangal, as well as worked as a scientific officer in Center for Electronics Design and Technology and Center for Microprocessor Applications at IISc Bangalore. He elected as a chairman and technical director, Electro Systems Associates Private Limited, Bangalore. He continued his services to the Visvesvaraya Technological University as a former member in various committees such as Academic Senate, Staff Recruitment Committee, Faculty Advisory Committee, Finance Committees, and former chairman for Board of Studies in Computer Science, Information Science, Master of Computer Applications, and also elected as a Research Review Committee member in Computer Science. He flourished his knowledge by playing major roles in R&D sectors as a chief technical consultant for 2 projects on life cycle cost estimation for defense equipment in the prestigious institutes like DRDO, and technical director of ESA designed and developed a variety of microprocessors, microcontroller-based products, and developed several custom-designed systems for repeated organizations such as ADA, BPL, IPA, and developed several developmental tools for industrial applications which are presently being used widely in our country, and published his research results in various publications, both international as well as national journals. His current focusing areas include engineering education, general higher education, accreditation, software engineering, artificial intelligence, and ML, embedded systems, resource person for several workshops, NPTEL course on accreditation by NBA, NAC, and continuing his works in enhancing the above mentioned fields. And today, he will enrich us on the topic entitled Enhancement of Learning Quality in Online Teaching Through Models of Communication. With this short note, I am going to hand over the session to Professor Rajnikant sir.
Thank you, Professor, for your nice introduction. Good morning, participants. Can you see my slides, sir?
No, sir.
No, now
it is okay, sir. Okay.
Fine. Then, thank you. Good morning, dear friends. And at the outset, let me thank Geetam, Professor Venkatnath, and his colleagues for organizing this wonderful workshop and giving me a chance to interact with all of you in this workshop. I'm very sorry that today I got delayed by 5 minutes. There was a technology glitch from my end. Okay. The outcomes for this workshop are as follows. At the end of this 75 minutes session, the participants are expected to be able to understand the importance of communication, explain the issues of communication, understand the types of communication and their characteristics, and understand good practices in communication. In this context, when we say communication, we mean communication beyond course content. And the context of online education is also quite restricted to teaching online a regular course of certain number of credits to regular students of a degree program, and they are all regular students of the higher education institution. So these are the outcomes, and I hope that at the end of this session, participants will be able to attain these outcomes. Before we proceed further, let me just clarify a couple of issues that the PPTs are all made available to the coordinators. As Professor Venkatnath mentioned yesterday, they will be available to all the participants. So there is no need to make any notes of this PPT material. And if you have any questions, you can post them. We'll try to answer them in this session. But if there is a problem with respect to the time, and if I'm unable to answer some of the questions, please do post the questions. I will later get them from Professor Nath, and then I will try to answer them. Okay. With this, let me move forward. Now, when we say teaching online, the context can be several different types of contexts. We can have a workshop, typically 1 to 5 days, like the present one, a 7-day workshop. It can be a short-term training program on some specific tools or topic, maybe 1 or 2 weeks. or it can be a full-fledged course of certain number of credits, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. So our context is only teaching a full-fledged course. While teaching online in any of these contexts do share certain common features, when we are teaching a full-fledged course, the issues become slightly different. Even when we are looking at a full-fledged course of certain number of credits, it can be part of a regular academic program like a BE or B Pharma, or it can be for general audience, what typically we call as MOOCs. Our restriction for this present session would be that we are looking at teaching regular students of a formal academic program like a BTech or BSc or BCom or B Pharma, and the participants are all our regular students. And when the course is offered in blended mode, yesterday also we were discussing this blended mode, the percentage of time devoted to face-to-face teaching can vary across the institutes. So we will not make any assumptions about this. Then the course can be offered in a synchronous mode or asynchronous mode. But generally we offer the course in a synchronous mode. Like this workshop now is happening in a synchronous mode, but it may be backed up by asynchronous learning resources availability. We look at those issues presently. Now, in any course, we can say there are 3 types of presences. One is what you may call as the social presence. Yesterday, this point was raised by some of the participants, and both the speakers also mentioned these issues, that we need to have a community of learners. We need to have social interaction. From a social cognitivist perspective, learning happens in a social setting, and a teacher also must be part of that social setting. So there is the social presence of the teacher as well as the learners. Then we have the cognitive presence and teacher presence. The cognitive presence refers to clarifying the doubts of students regarding the course outcomes, relevance of the course, or clarifying the doubts of the students regarding the learning resources provided, any subject related queries. So the ability to answer all these things and help the learners attain the stated course outcomes, the stated competencies would be part of the cognitive presence. Then during all this, the students must feel the presence of the teacher. The teacher must be able to respond to the students as quickly as possible. The students must feel that the teacher is out there to help them, and the teacher must make her presence felt by the students. So these 3 types of presences are very important in any course. But when it comes to online course, there are some other issues which crop up. Many of the issues which happen in a physical class exist in online classes also. However, the resolution may pose different problems. Some of the issues are managing communications. That is the focus of this session. But we also have issues like record keeping, attendance records, any disciplinary proceeding records, the assessment and performance of students, records related to that. Then we have the identity issue. How do we know that if some student logs in into our online class, it is really that student and not a proxy? So identity issues, then privacy issues, and there are issues with respect to managing online behavior of students. Then, of course, there is content presentation. This is extremely important. Yes, in an online course, teachers must become familiar with the technologies available today for presenting the content to the students. So this would include your office suite like Word or Excel or PPT, but it also would include advanced facilities like embedding audio and video into a PPT or a Word, using graphics capabilities of Excel, or video audio capture and edit tools like for OBS, for example, open broadcast software, or audio capture and editing tools like Audacity, then graphics tools for concept maps, mind maps. There can be many other tools like this to make the content presentation more effective. Maybe text to speech, speech to text tools. So there can be many variations, and this is certainly important. But while these are necessary, they are not sufficient to ensure quality learning by students. So the focus of today's session is to look into the other issues of communication beyond the communication of the learning resource or course content. Because there are also issues of online assessment. Some of these issues would be discussed in later sessions, certainly. So we are looking at only communication beyond the course content. So for us, it includes all other types of communication. This is a key component in any teaching learning environment. It is particularly critical in online education. Why? Several important features that are present in traditional face-to-face teaching learning environment are either absent or minimally present in online environment. For example, if this were really a workshop being conducted in a brick and mortar kind of scenario, as soon as I would walk into the room, I would say good morning, and I would encounter smiling faces. Hopefully, some of you are still smiling now. So there would be a communication which is non-verbal. Okay, there would be body language, there would be gestures, there would be eye contact maintained with the participants. Then the teacher can have how the students are responding to the material being presented. And then if necessary, the teacher can speed up the presentation or slow down the presentation or backtrack and re-emphasize a particular point. Then the teacher can assess the extent to which the students are actively participating in the classroom activities. If there are people who are not becoming part of the learning community, then a teacher can bring them into the community by asking pointed questions. So there are so many kind of communications happening in a physical classroom environment which are absent in the online context. And the teacher has to compensate for all these minimal or absent non-verbal cues in order to ensure that students are properly engaged. Then there are issues in communications arising from differences in synchronous, asynchronous, and blended learning environments. Whether it is synchronous or asynchronous, when it is online, there are delays in providing the feedback from the learners or delayed response from the instructor. So these things happen. Like even though now we are doing this in synchronous mode, I'm not taking question answers as and when they're raised. There is a fixed slot in which the QA are being handled. So there is a delay, whereas in a physical classroom, most probably we would be allowing our students to raise their hand whenever there is a doubt, and immediately we would be able to clear. So there is this kind of a delay. Then extremely important, the peer interaction is absent mostly or minimally present in online environment. As was emphasized yesterday by both Professor Rao and Professor Channareddy, the social interaction and also some of the participants, the social interaction is a key component in knowledge building, and that is minimally present or absent in an online environment. So how do we tackle all these issues? That can be done only by supporting communication beyond the course content. And what are the types of communication which can be handled in an online course scenario? Broadly, we can think of three types of communication. One is what you can call as discussions, and another is message, and another is communication for collaborative work. Now, by discussion, we mean transient exchange of information between the teacher and the learners. Message is, on the other hand, a one-way communication. And then we need to have communication for collaborative work, group work for groups of students, and that can be discussions over extended time periods. But typically, the difference is that the communication for collaborative work has an explicit aim of solving a specific task. The problem solving is the focus of the communication for collaborative work. So the teacher can make small groups of learners, say 4 or 5 in a group, and each group is given a specific task on which the group has to work collaboratively. And of course, the teacher can mentor them, help them, and see how the progress is happening. Now, supporting these 3 forms of communication is to ensuring quality learning by the students while teaching online. Now, while making the content, learning resource available to the students can be somewhat simple, establishing, managing, and effectively ensuring the communication of all these 3 types can be a challenge. If we have some learning management system like Moodle, or Moodle integrated with Zoom, or Google Suite for education, or Microsoft Teams, or something very similar, then it becomes very, very convenient to manage these communications beyond the course content. So one of the strongest recommendations that we all would make is that the institute must establish a learning management system or a course management system like Moodle, and that can have one homepage dedicated to each online course. And the communications can be conveniently handled on that homepage. So that would be an extremely convenient way. If that is not there, then we'll have to look at alternative options. Okay. We'll see briefly what we mean by each of these. The first is discussion. As we mentioned, it is a very brief, transient exchange of information between teachers and learners. In an asynchronous mode, the learning resources pre-recorded are made available to the students, probably on an institutional website or on an LMS. So when the students go through that learning material, there would be certain forms of questions or discussions which are essential in order to clarify their doubts. So in the asynchronous mode, the discussions are also handled via asynchronous text-based threads. Essentially, there would be messages which are really between teacher and students, as well as students and teachers. So we call them as discussions. So text-based threads, you can use email, and several faculty have been trying even to use WhatsApp or some chat rooms, online chat rooms. But the biggest challenge here would be that if you do not have any LMS, the interface provided to the students by different teachers may be different. Different teachers of different courses might choose different options for engaging the students in discussion. And then the students would have some difficulty in engaging with the teacher in each course in a different fashion. Again, this is where an LMS would be extremely useful. In a synchronous mode, which is much more common, like what we are doing right now, the discussions can be planned and scheduled. So for example, here we are saying that at 11, there would be a QA session. It's only QA, but it can be discussion based. Now, this can ensure learner participation to certain extent, but given that there is a limited time, ensuring the participation of all the students can be a real challenge here also. And it is possible to have both verbal and text-based communications. In a chat box or QA box, one could really type out the answer, or verbally, one could read out the question as well as provide the answer. So in a synchronous mode, both are possible. And if you are using an LMS, we can use the same platform on which the course is being delivered. but coordination is required. Some of the tools do permit an equivalent of raising a hand. Like yesterday, some participants did raise their hand, indicating that they need to ask a question. But then the coordinator must ensure that these kinds of interactions take place in an orderly fashion. But some tools may not really permit that. So we need to have appropriate technical support from the tools for such coordination by the host. And these tools can provide support in different fashions on different platforms. But it has the potential to be more effective. Now, in a synchronous mode, normally we are on air for certain fixed time. The time slots are fixed. And so the time available for discussion tends to be generally quite limited, maybe 5 or 10 minutes or 15 minutes max. And as discussions generally happen only in scheduled windows, delays, though small, do occur even in synchronous mode. And that is the reason why the discussions are supported, are supplemented even in asynchronous mode also, when the classes are being conducted in synchronous mode. Even when the regular class is being conducted in synchronous mode, we need to supplement the asynchronous discussion, and that is fairly common. If you have a blended course, you have greater advantage because you have online plus face-to-face. The time allocated to the traditional face-to-face classes tends to vary across different courses or institutions. But a teacher can use these face-to-face sessions to improve the quality of learning by carefully supplementing the synchronous, asynchronous discussions. In fact, some teachers have gone to the extent that they use the face-to-face interaction time only for clarifying the doubts or for mentoring the students in their problem-solving activities, what typically you would call as a flipped classroom. Essentially, all the learning resources are made available to the students, and then the face-to-face time is used only for clarifying the doubts. This can also be an effective way for handling the laboratory work, which, as we saw yesterday, cannot be really done in an online mode. But in an online mode, through appropriate simulation tools, we can make the experiment to be conducted, the procedure to be followed, the equipments which are available, all this very clear to the students. And the face-to-face time can be used for the actual conduct of the experiment, reducing the time required in the laboratory. Of course, still it requires that physically the students must be present in the institute. So it has its own challenges. Some of the other sessions in this FDP are devoted to that particular challenge, how to address that challenge. But in a blended mode, we have the advantage that we can use the face-to-face sessions more effectively to fill the gaps which have occurred because of the limitations of online interactions. Then there are learner issues. We have quiet learners, noisy learners, disruptive learners. In an online mode, we have participants, learners, students who really do not activate themselves into any discussion mode. They neither initiate any discussion thread, nor do they respond to any discussion forums which are already present there. They do not raise any questions. They do not respond to any questions from the teachers. Very quiet learners. In a brick and mortar class, the teacher would be very easily identifying such students and would try to engage them by asking them specific questions and by inviting them into discussions in a more addressed, specified fashion. But in an online session, it becomes very difficult to identify such quiet learners. Then you have noisy learners who dominate the discussion space, the discussion forums in your LMS or whatever be the platform that you choose. They are the ones who go on creating new discussion forum threads, and they keep on posting a lot of information onto the discussion threads. Now, whatever be the reasons, we are not discussing those reasons now, but we do have such learners. Then occasionally we do have disruptive learners who try to sidetrack the issues, bring in unrelated issues, and make the discussion lose the focus. A teacher has to handle all these issues of the learner related ones. Here again, if you have an LMS like Moodle, it becomes very easy, because in such an LMS, the teacher can easily get support from the tool itself to identify the students who are not participating in any discussion forums. That is, a teacher can ask for a specific enrolled student, how many discussion forums were initiated by that student, in how many discussion forums did that student participate. Questions like this can be answered, and the LMS can easily give answers. So you can easily identify the quiet learners as well as the noisy learners. But if you are not using any LMS, then the teacher has to spend considerable time to get to what you can call as these learner analytics. So teacher has to spend considerable amount of time to get these learner analytics. But it is necessary to ensure that there is a democratic participation of all the students in these discussion forums. Okay, so we need to analyze the learner behavior. Then teacher needs to pay special attention to these issues to facilitate quality learning. So summary of the key issues for the teachers with both synchronous and asynchronous discussions would be that ensuring effective and meaningful participation by all the learners. This, as we all know, has been a challenge even in face-to-face classrooms. There are people who really hesitate to participate in any classroom discussions. In an online scenario, that becomes much more challenging, but a teacher has to ensure the effective and meaningful participation by all the learners, and making the learners feel the presence of the teacher. There is a physical distance between the teacher and the students, but the students must feel the presence of the teacher. This can be done in a varieties of ways, by actively monitoring the discussions, by being responsive to the needs of the students when they ask the questions, and in general making the students feel the teacher is out there to help them. So this is also an important aspect of online teaching. Then moderating the discussion threads to ensure that the discussion doesn't go off tangentially, encouraging the participants. And if for whatever reason the discussion threads become somewhat inert, not much is happening on those forums, then the teacher herself can initiate some discussion threads, and as and when necessary, while generally allowing the learners to assume the responsibility for the discussion threads. It is generally a good practice to allow the students to assume control for initiating and participating in the discussions, while the teacher only watches what is happening in the discussion threads. But sometimes it may become necessary for the teacher to post a question and ask the students to contribute their views regarding that particular topic. So these are all the main takeaways, and an LMS is the most effective and efficient tool available in addressing all these issues. Now let us look at the next one, which is message. This is a one-way communication. A discussion is a two-way communication, whereas message is a one-way communication. It can be quite brief, or extended messages are possible. And the message can be from the teacher to the students, or it can be from the students to the teacher. And a message board that is distinct and separate from the discussion support would be the most desirable one. A message can certainly be posted in a discussion forum, but that is not a very convenient approach to the message aspect. The messages must be essentially a separate thread or a separate tab in the LMS. So a separate message board is ideal, a bulletin board, equivalent to physically what we have as the notice board, essentially. Such a message board can be embedded in the course homepage. If you have again an LMS, there can be a separate message board, or what you can call as a bulletin board. And then alerts about new messages must be supported. Whenever the teacher posts a new message to the bulletin board, there must be an alert, either in a distinct color or in a scrolling fashion or in a flashing fashion. The alert must be available. This you would have seen in almost all the online websites of either AICT or MHRD or UGC, that whenever any new message is there, there would be an alert. So if the teacher is announcing a change in the schedule of a test date and posts a message about that, then there must be alert, so that as soon as the student logs into that particular home page, immediately the students can see that there is a new message. And then sometimes the students might have missed out some of the older messages of the previous day or previous 2 days. So viewing the message history is also necessary, and it must be easy to view the message history. Now, managing this kind of a thing without a tool support would be a big challenge. So what kind of messages are possible from the learners? They can be queries related to the course content. These are not same as discussions. It is just primarily one query. For example, this particular topic is not present in the learning material provided. Just a specific query. For whatever reasons, maybe that PPT is not opening up or some PDF is not opening up. So they can be queries related to course content. They can be requests related to the course. For example, permission for absence during synchronous classes, or permission for late submission of assignments, or permission to be absent for an internal test. There could be any such thing. So there can be requests related to the course, not specifically content, but with respect to course administration. Then queries related to technology. In fact, in one of the surveys, they found that this is quite common, and a large percentage of the messages are really related to the technology. Either there can be access problems, password change procedures, quality of video, audio. Like right now, I'm afraid the quality of my video as well as audio is relatively poor. So sometimes issues can be like this. There can be connectivity issues. There can be power issues, particularly in Indian context, with the students being from remote places. They can have challenges. So queries related to technology. And if you are using some platforms like WebEx or Google Suite for education, the students may have difficulties in becoming familiar with the necessary protocols. So there can be queries related to technology. Then you can have a bulletin board for posting anonymous questions. That means a bulletin board where a student can post a question anonymously. Now, whether you allow such anonymous posts is a policy issue. Some teachers do allow the students to post questions in anonymous fashion, but some teachers do not allow such anonymous postings. There are pros and cons for both the approaches. I will leave it to the teacher's discretion. Then, of course, there can be casual messages like thanks, etc. Then there are messages from the teacher. There can be introductory messages at the start of the course, and later again we'll discuss. These are extremely important in connecting to the learners. So a kind of welcome message, maybe another message about the course schedule, then another message about assessment schedule, when are the tests going to be conducted, what would be the portions for each test, and if there are any changes in schedules, they need to be announced. Then status of the course progress, availability of learning materials, maybe some new learning resource has come to the notice of the teacher, maybe a new PDF file. So the teacher has made this learning resource available on the homepage of the course. So the teacher would like to post a message saying that a new learning resource has become available. So there can be messages like this. Then of course, there can be results, there can be reminders, due dates of the assignments, etc. So there can be a quite variety of messages from the teachers. And these are all extremely important, not only to establish a kind of social link between the teachers and the students, but also ensuring that the teacher's presence is felt by the students. So these messages play an extremely important role. And of course, you can have messages related to course structure. What are the course outcomes? What are the contents related to the course outcomes? Then there can be encouragement and appreciation. This is again very helpful in promoting quality learning. There have been any number of empirical studies demonstrating that timely appreciation by the teacher plays a big positive role in enhancing the interests of the students. So it promotes quality learning by the students. When a student makes a particularly good contribution to a discussion forum, teacher can encourage them, can appreciate them. So these are all very important. In fact, all teachers have been doing this in face-to-face classes. We do appreciate a good contribution from a student, but that happens very naturally in a very, very smooth fashion in face-to-face interactions. In an online context, it will not happen unless the teacher specifically plans for it, specifically has a mechanism to make the appreciation known to the students, and a support by the system to make that appreciation available to the students. So the major issue is that in an online context, teacher has to plan all these things, which happen in a normal fashion in a traditional face-to-face setting. Then, of course, there can be responses to content-related queries by learners. Then responses to technology-related queries by students. Now, this would be a challenge because sometimes the teacher also may need some kind of a support from the institute if the technology-related query is a deep one. So, for example, if the faculty is from humanities or other disciplines, then there can be some challenges regarding the technology-related queries. So it is best handled in collaboration with a tech help center operating at the institute level. This is another strong recommendation that we all would make, that the institute must have a very strong tech help center to help both the teachers as well as the students. And again, an LMS provides such facility in a very, very user-friendly interface. In the absence of this, each teacher may have a different interface. Then the students would have difficulty in adjusting to the specific way a particular teacher is implementing this message mechanism. A common interface, common to all the courses in the institute, would greatly facilitate the learning of the students. So all the teachers and all the students can be trained and everyone sees the same uniform interface. Then the next very important aspect is collaborative work. This was emphasized yesterday also, both by the resource persons as well as by some of the participants also. It is well known that knowledge is constructed socially and collaborative learning is extremely important. Students learn a lot when they work together in small groups. And in a physical classroom environment, we can organize such collaborative work very easily. Peer interaction that is present in the traditional classroom setting is absent in online environment. Of course, when we say a traditional classroom setting, it's not always that the peer interaction takes place only in the classroom, within the confines of the four walls, but they are on the campus, so they keep interacting with each other, and a lot of learning happens in these interactions. Now, all that is absent when we switch to online mode. So it becomes very necessary for the teacher to make such collaborative work possible. Of course, discussion threads do provide some opportunities for peer interaction. A student may post a discussion topic, other students may respond to that in that particular forum, but that becomes a little bit more diffuse. Can we make more focused collaborative work possible? So it would be helpful to set up small teams of learners and challenge them with suitable collaborative learning activities. Technology use must support such an activity. So this must be planned well in advance, and learners also must be trained in the use of such technology, perhaps in a separate training session organized by the institute level tech help center. Again, an LMS would really provide such a breakout room facility. For example, if you have something like a Moodle, then you can create small groups of 3 to 5 students and allocate a room, a kind of online room to each group. And then only those students would have access to that discussion room. And there can be 20, 30 such rooms. And the teacher can simply virtually walk through these breakout rooms and see how the students are progressing. Or if there is more than one teacher who is responsible for the tutorials, then we can set up such breakout rooms, and the teachers can walk through the virtual breakout rooms. And this is extremely important in several types of courses, because inherently they depend upon the collaborative work by the students. So this is an extremely important facility that we must provide. Now that we have seen the 3 types, that is the discussions, the messages, and the collaborative tools, let us quickly do a recap of the good practices that are possible, some of the good practices that can be there in supporting communication in online classes. The first thing is that it is extremely important to get connected to the learners right in the beginning of the course. Right at the start of the course, or perhaps even a week before the start of the course, the teacher must establish a connection with the learners. A social presence is absolutely necessary. There must be a sense of learner community. So you can have individual emails to the learners, in addition to a general welcome message on the message board. And that would be very helpful in establishing a kind of a rapport with the online learners. This becomes particularly important with the first year students, because it is quite possible that the teacher has not seen these first year students even once. Even if there are senior students, we do not know really how much familiarity exists between the teacher and the students. But these individual emails create a sense of belonging, a sense of, yeah, our teacher cares about us, that kind of a feeling. So it is extremely important to get connected to the learners right in the beginning. And again, here tools would be very helpful. You can have facilities like mail merge from a Word, or you can have facilities from an LMS to send the mails to the individual learners in a very convenient fashion. Because if you start separately sending mails to all your 60 students, that can be a huge drain on your time and energy. So a tool must be available where you feed it a list of your registered students and then a common text message, and that would automatically be sent to all the learners. Then make all the learners feel secure and safe in all their communications. This will help in greater participation and opening up by the learners. It is extremely important that the teacher must ensure that the students feel secure and safe in their online communications. What we mean by secure and safe, both that their any individual messages would be secure, the confidence would not be divulged, and their online interests would be protected. We'll see some of these issues a little bit more detail in the next couple of slides. Do not fail to appreciate when appropriate. As I mentioned, if a student makes good contribution to a discussion forum, appreciate the student immediately. That is very, very essential to make the learners feel the presence of the teacher, as well as it can be a motivation for them to work harder. So do not fail to appreciate when it is appropriate. But when appreciating, look at the quality of post by the learners and not merely the length of their post. So essentially, the teacher has to go through the post, and just because the post is long, it does not mean that it is of good quality. So the teacher must look at the quality of the post and then compliment the students when appropriate. And extremely important, respond as quickly as possible to all the queries from the learners. This is very important because in an online mode, there is a physical distance between the teacher and the students, and that needs to be somehow bridged. The sense at least needs to be bridged. The students must feel that the teacher is out there to help them. So respond as quickly as possible to all queries from the learners. And if the course includes collaborative work, in general, a desirable practice in all courses, form teams carefully. What should be the size of the team? Preferably small teams. Then what should be the composition of students in those teams? And then ensure that the facilities are available for them to work in a collaborative fashion. And the teacher must be able to spend time with each team. Then, of course, this again was mentioned yesterday, use humor, suitable emoticons in messages when appropriate to reinforce a sense of learning community. But be careful, humor can be easily become a sarcasm. When you are cracking a joke in a face-to-face scenario, there is your body language to support your humor. There is your facial expression, there is a smile on your face, and in general, you can convey that you are essentially saying this in a jovial mood. But the same words, when are typed, they become kind of inert forms, lifeless forms. So someone could easily mistake them as sarcasm. Like if we are face to face, if you say, "Ha, come on, you're kidding," then everyone can see that it is in a lighter mode. But the same thing, if I type in a message box, the student might take it as a kind of a sarcasm. So while humor is extremely important, it is not that easy to make humor appreciated by the students in a text mode. Of course, you can use suitable emoticons if the tools support it, but still be careful, but use it whenever appropriate to reinforce the sense of learning community. And of course, be very sensitive in your textual responses, uh, overt messages, as well as the tone and connotations. Quite often, a text can sometimes convey a wrong impression because of the connotation. The words used may have some different meaning for the learners. When we are talking, always, as I said, there is the support of the body language and facial expressions. But when you are simply typing text into a message box, one has to be very careful about the kind of language that we use. We must be sensitive to all the issues that are really important, like gender, caste, on all these things. One must be very careful and make the textual comments with lot of discretion, because really we do not know whatever we have typed, what is the extent to which it will be shared in the online community. It may not be confined to my class. Once I post something, it may go beyond the classrooms. And it must be very, very, very careful to see that we do not make inappropriate comments at any stage. Ensure that the discussions are carried out with decorum. If someone starts posting using language which is not desirable, you must gently coax that student to use more decorous language. So then when the discussions are happening, consider carefully when to assume control. If the students are discussing very hotly, as long as it doesn't cross certain boundaries of decency, allow that to happen. But if it is going out of focus and if you see the need to assume control, fine, you can do it. But consider carefully when to assume control. And then if there are nothing much is happening in the discussions, initiate a discussion as appropriate at appropriate times. Then generously allow for genuine difficulties that the learners may have in communicating in English. Many cases are there where the students coming from certain rural areas or distant sections may have difficulty with communication in English, and they may hesitate to participate in the discussions, not because they have nothing to contribute, but because they are hesitant about their use of English, their competency over English. So they may have a diffidence. And sometimes even when they post, the post may carry slightly inappropriate meaning not because the students intend it, but because they have difficulty with English. In India particularly, this is a problem and challenge for many students, particularly in their first year when they make the transition from high school to or junior college to the college. So allow for all these things, including delays in responding. Sometimes if you post a question, the student may take more time to respond because she has to compose the response in English, and that may take more time. So allow for such difficulties. And when the communication from the learner is rather vague, again, because of the difficulties of communicating in English, do not assume something. Do not assume that this is what the student means. Instead, gently probe and seek clarification. You can send back a message saying that, is this what you are trying to say? Is this your specific doubts? So try to get more clarity from the students. And that would actually also send a message to the student that in online communication, we must be clear about what we are trying to say. And also it would help the student to become a little bit more comfortable in interacting with the teacher. Then if glitches are encountered during the online course, handle it calmly. This is extremely important. As I just now mentioned, my mail was working on my desktop till yesterday night, midnight, very wonderfully. But today morning, I got into trouble both with my Yahoo Mail as well as Gmail accounts on my desktop. And the same thing can happen for students also. There can be problems with the online software. There can be problems with the internet. There can be problems with the power supply. There can be problem with the device. So the glitches do happen. In fact, Murphy's law works here. If anything can go wrong, it will. And if nothing can go wrong, anyway, something will go wrong. So glitches do occur. But for a student, it can be a matter of stress. So we must handle the glitch calmly and communicate clearly the reasons and your specific action plans for dealing with these glitches. Particularly if the students are submitting an assignment and if there is a technical glitch, the due date is over, or worse still, they are responding to an online quiz and there are technology glitches, the students may have a lot of stress regarding what is going to happen to their performance evaluation, their marks or their grade. So make the learners comfortable and confident that their interest will not be compromised. Teachers understand that there can be glitches. So the students must be assured that their interest will never be compromised because of the technology glitches. This is very important. In particular, you must have seen news in the recent times that several students, particularly high school students, have been subjected to great stress because they are not able to handle the consequences of glitches. While college students generally tend to be more mature, still they also would be subjected to great stress, particularly if the glitch occurs during the assessment time, as I mentioned. So ensure that they feel confident that their interest will not be compromised in any case. Be liberal in communicating individually through email or even voice messages or mobile phone. Okay, you can keep reminding them of the due dates, keep reminding them of the availability of learning resources, keep pointing them to new online resources. So be liberal. Then set up and regularly update a kind of FAQ section in your course homepage. Frequently asked questions, typically regarding the technology, tools, the course, the learning resources, regarding the assessment plans. You can put up an FAQ section in your course homepage, again on an LMS, and encourage learners to consult that section before posting a message. However, very often, even if you put a question and the answer for that in FAQ, students would ask the same question again. So do not get upset with learners who post a message for which an answer is already available in the FAQ section. Very often, the students either really do not understand the FAQ section well, or they do not go through that carefully. So they post the same question. So please do not get irritated. They also need to get adjusted to the learning environment. Don't do an online shout saying that this is already available in FAQ. Why are you wasting my time posting the same question again? So please be accommodative. Repeating a reasonable number of times alerts about important dates and announcements is all right. Last dates for submission of assignments, tests, makeup tests, all these things. But always keep all communication from your end supportive, respectful, and gentle. Students may sometimes post messages which are not in the best of taste for a variety of reasons. But from our side, by keeping our communication part supportive, respectful, and gentle, we are helping the learners, and are also we are making a kind of point about good communication, and students can learn from that. So communication from our end must always be supportive, respectful, and gentle. Then finally, at the institute level, as I suggested, have one kind of LMS, one uniform interface available, make careful choice of technologies, and have a standard template for course design. Because the student goes through so many online courses, if each teacher starts presenting a different interface, students would have difficulty in adjusting themselves to these different interfaces. Let there be one common interface available to all the students for all the courses. Where to find the QA, where to find the discussion forum, where to find the message board, where to find the learning resources, how does the screen appear, how to navigate through learning resources. This entire interface must be common for all the courses. At the institute level, have one common interface. Train the teachers and learners in the chosen technologies. And extremely important, maintain a good tech support center with adequate staff. So finally, online learning has come to stay. While online learning has several advantages, there are significant challenges also, both for teachers and learners. Communication beyond course content is one significant challenge, and such communication was a key issue in traditional classroom setting also, but it is particularly challenging in online learning environments. Discussions, messages, collaborative learning tools must be implemented effectively and efficiently and in an engaging way. They must be effective, they must work, they must be efficient, your resources wise, and they must be engaging for the students. They must enjoy it. So effectively, efficiently, and in an engaging way for better quality learning in online mode. Use of appropriate technologies, training for teachers and learners must be planned upfront by the institute. I know that last time we all were pushed into this online in a very rapid fashion without adequate preparation, either at the teacher level or student level or the institute level. But now that online learning has come to stay, we must face these challenges in a more planned fashion. So upfront planning is essential. Online teaching can be made at least as good as, more often better than face-to-face learning. And an LMS would greatly facilitate quality learning by the students while teaching online. And in all these things, adaptation and continual improvements are essential. So we need to ensure that the online courses are as good as, or at least, in fact, better than the traditional face-to-face courses by leveraging technology in an appropriate fashion. I think already I have exceeded the time by about 4 minutes. So I think this is where I'll stop and I'll take any question answers that you have. Okay. Thank you. Over to you, Professor Venkatnath.
Thank you very much, Rajinikanth sir, for your enlightening lecture. And we have enriched with the knowledge for the coming academic years, especially.
Thank you. Any question answers if they are there?
Yeah, it is there, sir.
Yeah, I can take that.
So this question is from Murthy Sharma. What is IMS?
And it's not IMS, it is LMS. What I said
sorry,
is
LMS.
LMS is a learning management system, or what you can also sometimes the lower end is called as a course management system. That means if you consider any course, typically you have 4 aspects to that. One is making the learning resources available. That means your PPTs or PDFs or Excel files or any other online resources. So where are these learning resources made available to the students? And how are they made available? They may have media files, audio tracks, video files. So where are these are all grouped together, and they must be grouped together. You cannot simply dump 100 resources there. So topic wise or course outcome wise, you must group them. So these are the resources related to this topic. Like this, you must group. So how do you organize your learning resources and make them available to the students? Because sometimes easily the learning resources can be overwhelming. So you must organize them properly. So this is one aspect. Another aspect is you have the classroom management, in the sense that you must take attendance, then you must schedule your classes, then you must engage them in the discussions, then message boards, then collaborative tools. All these things you need to have. So there is one classroom management issue. Then you also have the online assessment. How do you conduct your tests? Then how do you get the responses from the students? How do you get them evaluated automatically or manually? How do you make the results available to the students? This is another aspect. Then there is also another aspect of scheduling classes, scheduling tests, and changing them as required if there are some unexpected scenarios. So all these features need to be supported by a tool. So if you have a course management system, or better still, a learning management system, they are all integral part. Like Moodle, you have a facility for adding learning resources and for classifying them topic wise, organizing them into separate directories. Then you have a facility for opening a discussion forum. You have a message board. You have alerts about the messages. You have a plugin module for attendance, and you have a plugin module for other video sessions like Zoom, etc. So you can have some kind of a learning management system, and then the user interface becomes very common. Every student sees the same interface for any course. So their learning time gets reduced substantially. And there are tools available. As I said, Moodle is an open source tool. You can freely install it if your college has a website, or there are Moodle cloud sources available. And there are also Moodle versions available for limited trial period. You also have Google Suite for education. They offer almost freely if you have an institute website, but there are also professional versions for marginal money. Particularly in these pandemic times, everyone is offering huge discounts, so you can get it. Then you have Microsoft Teams. If you have an institute website available, then it is free for you. So any of these tools would greatly facilitate the online learning. So this is what we mean by a kind of a learning management system. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Dr. Sailaja. Sir, can you briefly explain break room facility? Break room
Breakout
facility.
rooms.
Yeah, that's what.
Pardon?
Yeah, sir.
See,
Breakout rooms.
basically,
Yeah, break room facility. They ask.
yeah. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that if we are in a physical brick and mortar classroom, what we do is 3-4 students are made into a group, and then we give them one small task and say that, okay, I'll give you 15 minutes or 20 minutes, work on this in a group. But sometimes I can give them an extended problem, make it as an assignment and give them a week's time, for example, and say that, okay, work and get back. But essentially, we promote collaborative learning by making the students work in groups. But how do you do that in a virtual classroom? So I may have, for example, a 1-hour tutorial session. Then I would like to have the 60 students uh, grouped into, let us say, about 15 groups, with each group having 4 students. Then I would like to give them some problem. I would ask them to work together. But how do they work together in a virtual fashion? They must have access to the other members of that group, and members of different groups should not be able to see what they are doing. Like if the 4 students are in one group, any discussion that they do, it must be among those 4 only. The other people should not get into this discussion group, because that would become too much of a noise. So how do we create these kind of what you can call as virtual breakout rooms? You break out for our discussion into a virtual room. But teacher must be able to walk into any room. When I say walk into, I mean virtually, okay, not physically. Virtually walk into any room and see what discussion is happening. Teacher must be able to see the discussion that is happening in any virtual breakout room. So this would greatly facilitate collaborative learning. And again, as I said, in an LMS like Moodle or even in Google Suite, this is possible. That is, what you can do is you can create a group and you can assign 3-4 students to the group, and similarly create 15-20 groups as required. and then give the topic for that group and inform it to the student. Then their discussion would be confined only to their group. So this makes online collaboration very effective, and this would greatly promote quality of learning. So these are called as virtual breakout rooms. Okay.
Okay, sir. This is from Dr. Radhakrishnan. Would having
Yes,
a
please.
definite communication plan charted out along with the course plan details will mitigate communication disadvantages online? That's what is very.
Certainly, sir, the communication can be planned upfront, there is no doubt. But what happens is that when we are teaching, we do a lot of planning upfront based on what we expect our student community to be. So what we say is design for potential learners. We expect that this is how our students are going to be, this is going to be their background, this is going to be their ability and all that. But the actual classes, when we start, there is always some difference between our expectations and what is really out there. So dynamically, we must be able to adjust. We must plan upfront, certainly. The more the planning, the more convenient it is. But we must be willing enough to be flexible to adapt to the actual ground level reality. So what we say, that's why, is design for potential learners, teach to the actual learners. So we must have the flexibility. Certainly, upfront planning is good, but the system that we are using, the tools that we are using, must allow us to be flexible when teaching to the actual learners. So that is very essential. Yes, sir. Anything further, Professor Agatha? Hello.
Is there, sir? Is there
Yeah.
any specified communication platforms specific to mode synchronous and asynchronous?
Almost all the tools which I mentioned permit all the communication modes. That means discussions, messages, collaborative tools, both for synchronous as well as for asynchronous classes. All the tools that I mentioned support all these three modes, for synchronous as well as for asynchronous. Though Moodle is primarily for asynchronous, it was not designed for synchronous. Moodle was primarily for asynchronous communications. And Google Suite for education as well as Microsoft Teams support both synchronous and asynchronous. But Moodle also can be made to support synchronous by plugins. Moodle is an open source tool, so there are literally thousands and thousands of plugins available because it is developed by an online community. So you have plugins, for example, for Zoom. And then what you can do is you can use Moodle even for synchronous classes and synchronous discussions. So practically today, any reasonably good tool available supports all the three forms of communication, both in synchronous as well as asynchronous mode of interaction. Okay.
One more question, sir. How
Yeah,
best can you bring out critical thinking in communication platforms?
yes, sir. Actually, critical thinking essentially would involve, as I mentioned, a lot of communication happening beyond the course content. You pose an extremely interesting and challenging problem at the right level of complexity and difficulty, at the right cognitive level, and then allow the students to work through. That is how we can promote critical thinking, just not by merely talking about it. The students must be engaged in problem solving activities, which means that we must set up some kind of breakout rooms for collaborative work and monitor what is happening and stimulate them whenever required to launch into alternative ways of looking at the problem. So to promote critical thinking, again, we need good communication support in collaborative tools. So certainly in an online, we can promote it better, but we must have tool support. As I mentioned, if you don't have tool support, it becomes much more challenging to promote all these things. But if we have, certainly we can promote critical thinking, challenge the students at the right level. Okay.
And one more question from Chandra Idu.
Yeah.
Is there any learning resources other than net-based because they are facing net problem?
Pardon,
Online.
is there any learning resource available other than?
Other than online basics, sir. If internet is disconnected, then if it is offline based learning system, if it is there, then it will be useful. That's what is.
I understand, sir. Actually, this is what I said, that today one of the biggest challenges is the net connectivity and power supply. This was touched upon yesterday also by Professor Rao and Professor Channareddy. And the government is also keen into look into these problems. If we have a learning management system, as I said, for example, something like a Moodle or a Google Suite, then you can upload your learning resources first. Then the students can download them whenever they have the connectivity. They can download this resource material onto their device whenever they have the connectivity, that is both net and power. And once they have this connectivity and they are able to download, then you don't need net or you don't need power. You can look into these resources at your convenient time. Like, for example, I see that all these online sessions of this FDP, these are being recorded actually. So I hope that the organizers will make the links available. Then later you can actually watch them when. So while the synchronous classes would need connectivity and power, the access to the learning resources would need the net connectivity only for limited periods when they are able to download. Once that is done, the students can study that at their own convenience, and they can interact with the teachers through asynchronous discussion forums. That is, they can post their queries on the forum whenever they get net and power, and they can see the responses again whenever they get net and power. So by suitably blending synchronous teaching, asynchronous forums, and blended activity, we can ensure that we can overcome the challenges of net and power connectivity as much as possible. But at least some net and power must be available for some time. If you are totally disconnected, online is impossible, right? So at least for some time, the net must be available, power must be there.
Even
Yes,
our governments also, they're offering the courses through some of the TV channels. Thereby they can get
yes,
continuously. Yes, sir. Yes.
In fact, that's what, sir, many governments are initiating several things, including, as I mentioned, as mentioned yesterday by Professor Rao, some of the governments are really looking at setting up wireless or Wi-Fi hotspots in some community centers in villages, so that people nearby, within about 100 meters of that Wi-Fi spot, can get internet connectivity. Several initiatives are being planned, but this is a transition period, so we will have to do whatever best we can within the context of available resources.
And one more
Yes,
question from Gunti Rajeswari. Sir, it is possible to differentiate slow learners from bright learners by LMS?
Yes, certainly. See, what you can do is LMS gives you a lot of learner analytics. That means if you post a question, if you post a discussion thread, who is taking how much time to participate, what is the extent of their participation, which learner is initiating discussion, how much of participation is happening by each learner. We can get all these learner analytics, so-called learner analytics, from any online kind of LMS. Once you have them, it is very easy to figure out who are the slow learners. It is also easy to figure out who are the fast learners. So what you can do is, for slow learners, if you wish, you can create a separate discussion forum. That is, the thread that you are opening is not for all the students. This thread will have only limited participation, maybe 4 or 5 students only. So what happens is, these students will feel more comfortable in participating in that discussion thread, because quite often, so the students may have some inhibitions. If I post this question, my colleagues may laugh at me. So many times, even in face-to-face classrooms, we find this. Students hesitate to ask the question because they think that if they ask question like that, others will feel this is a stupid question. So in my classes, that's why I keep saying that no question can be stupid. Answers sometimes can be stupid if I don't know, but questions can never be. So I keep saying that, but to help the students overcome this dividends, what we can do is, we can open a separate discussion thread. Moodle permits that, and make only those slow learners part of that thread, so others wouldn't see it. Then the students may feel more comfortable in opening up. But of course, they must believe in the teacher. The teacher will not ridicule them, or teacher will not make fun of them. That confidence they must have. That is essential. But once I am able to win the confidence of my student, then if I open a separate thread for those slow learners, they can interact more freely with me in that thread because they know that others will not be able to see that thread. So it is possible, sir. An LMS promotes that. You can get learning analytics, you can open separate threads. In the worst case, if you want, you can open a thread only for one student for one-on-one interaction. Okay.
And one more question, sir, final question.
Yeah.
And what are the various approaches to motivate the students towards the online learning?
Yes, that is a big challenge. In fact, I would say that motivate teachers also, because they are also very uncomfortable with this online kind of environment. So the workshops like this and faculty development programs like this are essential, but it is also equally important that we talk to the students beyond the classrooms. Before the courses commence, the institute must have some kind of orientation sessions even for students. The way now wonderfully Geetam is organizing this FDV for teachers, we need to have some kind of sessions for students also. Make them realize that the online learning contexts have come to stay. Even probably post the pandemic, we may continue with these online sessions for longer periods in view of resource utilization problems. So we have to conduct these motivations. And then once they get into online itself, make them more interesting. Get them motivated by ensuring that you leverage technology appropriately. Large number of tools are available for interesting audios, videos, animations. So many different tools are available. Based on the subject that you are teaching, you have to pick up appropriate tools. So use those tools, make it interesting, and most importantly, make the student feel confident that even if they have problems with connectivity or power, their interest will not be compromised. Most of the time, the students are worried about their grades and marks coming not because of their lack of effort. They are quite sincere, but they are helpless because of the net and power. So if you give the assurance to the students that their interest will never suffer because of net and power, they will not have reluctance. Almost all the cases, the students' worry is that because of no fault of theirs, their place has no net or there is a power problem, it is not their fault, but still they are suffering. Because of that psychological stress, most of the learners are reluctant about online. Assure them that we will take care of that issue, do not worry, then most of the time it will be easy. But certainly, in addition to that, you must have separate sessions for the students. There is no doubt about it. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. We have some more questions, but due to interest of time, we are moving ahead, and
Yes,
we'll anyway get the respective answers from the guest speaker, Rajnikant sir. Thank you,
Just
sir.
one
Thank you
minute,
very
sir.
much. And over to Professor Venkatnath, sir.
Yeah. 1 second, sir. I would like to once again thank all of you and again show that today, in fact, I had the technology glitch. My mail on the PC really conked out. But somehow we were able to continue the session. So thanks a lot to all of you. And as I mentioned, please post your questions and Professor Venkatnath will share them with me and I'll answer them. So
Sure,
thanks
sir. Sure.
again and I wish you all the very best. Thank you, Professor Venkatnath and team.
Thank you,
Thanks.
sir. Thank you very much.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Professor Rajnikant sir, for sparing your valuable time and sharing your knowledge. Now I request Dr. Venkatratnam sir to give the profile of the next speaker, Dr. Varalakshmi madam.
Thank you, Professor sir. It's my pleasure to invite Professor Madam Varalakshmi Balabhadrani. And Madam is finished his doctoral degree from Acharya Nagarjuna University in 1990. And Madam guided around of 6 PhDs and 16 MPhils from Acharya Nagarjuna University, JNTU, and other universities. And Madam is a excellent teacher training, especially in English language, soft skills, and Madam is a critical thinking skill online certificate from the Orion University. And the awards from the Red Cross, AP Red Cross Governor Medal, and AP State Best Teacher Awardee in 2007. And Madam is also a resource person, AP State Collegiate Education resource person, and so many number of credits with the side of Varalakshmi Madam. So a few of them I am going to be mentioned. One thing is, Madam is a master trainer in over the 50 teacher training programs, induction programs, workshops organized by CCE, BIE Technical Education on SEL techniques. And soft skill trainer, communication skills resource person for the AP HRD, Bapatla since 2016. Textbook of designer and editor for the English for the undergraduate courses, professional courses. And one more feather in the cap of the Madam Awardee list, that is called NAC and NB advisor to the professional colleges, both autonomous and affiliated institutions. And one more few is All India Radio, regular speaker on government policies, literature, and educational policies since 2009 as a speaker in the All India Radio. And one more thing, Madam is a teacher trainer to the AP police trainers. And so many things, so many other credits are also with the Madam. Certificate courses for the foreign students, certificate course for the undergraduate students of Government College of the Women Guntur on job skills. And Madam delivered over 45 live TV shows on English learning and soft skills on SAPNet for the UG students of the AP between 2006 and 2010, and Ambedkar Open University PG courses. So these are the few things I have mentioned, but a lot of a list of the credits are in this, that means curriculum, whatever the Madam sent profile. So I invite Madam, please share your screen and welcome you for this today's session. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Sir, am I audible?
You are audible, madam.
Good morning. Good morning to all the experts and the participants who are the nation builders. Initially itself, I'd like to thank Geetham University for organizing this wonderful FDP, which is the need of the hour. And I'm calling all the participants as the nation builders because the future of the nation depends on how you get oriented and reoriented and come up to the expectations of the nation by nourishing and nurturing the students. I thank you once again for this opportunity, and let's start. But there are a few questions in my program. I'd request all of you to keenly make a note of your responses for the questions so that at the end of this presentation, I'd be glad to hear your opinions on them. Okay? I titled this as Orientation versus Reorientation. Why do we need this orientation? What is it? How is it? For a win-win situation of both the educational institutions and the primary stakeholders. And I have divided my presentation into basically three heads: changes versus constants, the Z factor, and the new normal. Right from the beginning of this program, you must have heard many experts sharing their opinions with you. And I am also here for 1 hour to share. Instead of sharing, I'd like to use the word brainstorming. Mine is more like a brainstorming. So I want all of you also to actively brainstorm on what we are going to talk here. It's not highly technical like the experts sessions which you heard earlier. It is more general in nature, but I'm sure it's going to be of use to you. The changes versus constants. Change is the only constant we know, and You must have heard this word, the new normal. By this, we mean that we are never going to go back to a stage where the colleges were as they were prior to the COVID scenario. And by now, in many of the training programs, you must have heard about the writer, Spencer Johnson, and his book, Who Moved My Cheese? If you haven't, I think it's a pleasure reading that book. In that, it's just about 4 characters, Sniffy and Scurry, 2 mice and 2 humans. It's all about how quickly we realize change, we sniff change, and how quickly we move about to be confident that the best things we want are safe with us. So, Geetam has already sniffed the change in the educational environment. So adapt to change quickly. The quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you can enjoy new cheese. There are some nice quotations in that book. And this is one of the quotations which I have included here. People who are ready to accept change as an opportunity, challenges as opportunities, they only move forward. Because from the questions you were asking, from the presentation, and I have taken time to interact with some of the Geetam students. I'd just like to share it with you. What I felt was that they are in a confused state. Not only the adolescent state, but when we want to reorient or orient the students for a post-COVID Unlockdown 3.0 scenario, or for the future, I would like to say, what is their present status? What is their condition? This is what I would like to share with you. There's a lot of confusion, disappointment, because their career, they are uncertain about their future. There is a disorientation. They don't know what they should do, how they can progress, and their self-esteem based on their performance in the exams, the marks they get, how they are going to show themselves for their career. This is all in a confused state. They are in a confused state, and there's an emotional imbalance, insecurity, and most of them are off track. When I speak of all this, I'm talking about students who were with a good orientation earlier and who need a reorientation now. And in institutes like Geetam, I'm sure they must have been oriented in the right way earlier. So this is a paradigm shift. Whether we accept or not, in the teaching learning methods, for a very long time, we have been thinking of giving importance to the students, the teachers being in the background or by the side, and encouraging them to be self-motivated learners. And it was as if the time is somewhere in a distance. Sometime it will come. Right now, when I go to many institutions, they are trying their best to make the education or learning process student-centered. But I think now suddenly the responsibility has been thrust on you to make it more. So we know now about the changing paradigm, because the system, the earlier system, is not going to work anymore. You're going to look at the world in a new way, and the learning system which was there earlier is being modified, if not completely changed. I'm using this word because I'm sure in many of the best institutions, the student learning systems have been accommodating most of the technology, which now everyone needs to use. We need to be flexible, open to change, and we must make our learners interested in self-learning. That's how you can be ready for the change, not only tomorrow after the colleges reopen, but for life, for the whole life. And what you are doing now through this FDP program also is doing some unlearning, doing some relearning, and you are also lifelong learners. Your PhDs are already in your kit, but you are learning. There is something which hasn't changed. What hasn't changed? Let us see. The changes versus constants. COVID hasn't changed the institutional goals, I'm sure, the national goals, the course objectives, the program objectives, and the interest of the institution in supporting the stakeholders to the best so that they can be confident, responsible citizens in the world once they leave the institution. These objectives are the same. They are like the pole star. And if these objectives are constant, all along, so far, the stakeholders must have worked. The stakeholders here, I mean, the institution, the teachers, the society, the community, the alumni, everyone must have worked in coordination and cooperation and unison and commitment to meet those objectives. Now, have these objectives changed? I'm trying to show you that some things haven't changed. Only some things have. These objectives, I think, haven't changed. And your commitment to the objectives also hasn't changed. And that's why you have this FDP program here. But then, what is the need now? Do the students know that your interest in the students hasn't changed? And moreover, your concern for them has increased because you know that they are now disoriented, depressed, in a suicidal tendency also sometimes, and they do not know how to progress. So the current need is to create awareness, to motivate, to reassure them, tell them that all is not lost. First, by establishing trust. That's what the previous speakers also were stressing on. Convincing them regarding the minor changes necessary, like the self-discipline they need now. Earlier, probably, they were more dependent on their peers or teachers. But now, self-motivation and self-discipline becomes the key. And you need to support a positive and optimistic attitude among your students. That's where you need to orient them and tell them about the new avenues in learning regarding their career or the new horizons which are opening after this pandemic. Every time the world goes on changing its requirements, and we need to be ready to suit those changes with the best interest and knowledge. So what are the things that haven't changed, which can be brought forward? You can tell them, we have already been doing this. The essential 21st century skills, haven't you been focusing on critical thinking and creativity in the classes while designing your lesson plans, and how these skills are given importance? We have been doing that. I'm sure all of you also have been doing that. Giving scope for them for critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, enhancing their information literacy by using technology, their media literacy, their communication skills, their technology literacy and flexibility. These are just some of the points. So all these, I'm sure the teachers must have included in the learning process for the benefit of the learners, because these are the essential 21st century skills. And there's no change here. So we still have something which is brought forward, which is highly useful to us. What are the other things? The framework for 21st century learning. In the framework for 21st century learning, the focus is on learning and innovation, information, media and technology skills, core subjects and 21st century themes, which we have already seen, life and career skills. And for this, the learning environment, the professional development of the teachers, as well as the learners, the curriculum and instruction, standards and assessments are the base. So you can identify that there are some things which have changed. And this is where we need to orient our students. Your professional development hasn't changed. Your core subjects and standards haven't changed. But what has changed is the learning environment has changed. Maybe even the curriculum, depending on the new education policy, your instruction methods, and most importantly, the students are concerned about your assessment tools and whether they are going to be assessed objectively or not, and whether it will be beneficial to them or not. So these are the areas where the teachers also have to focus. And this is where you need to give confidence to your learners too. And there's something more. From what I learned from the interaction with your university students, mainly from Vizag branch, because I have some relatives studying there. I asked those students, and their concern was they are very happy with the teaching method so far. But their worry is about their career plans and future, whether they are going to get good jobs or not after this COVID. So the assurance or the reassurance, the orientation, while it starts with the first degree students who join your institutions, even those who leave your institution should be given the same confidence that they have been trained properly to enter the world with confidence. And what does the future workforce require in the 21st century for jobs? In this list also, the ability of making sense, identifying the best points, not just marking down. The novel and adaptive thinking methods, computational thinking, transdisciplinarity, cognitive load management, means ability to discriminate and filter information depending on the importance of the information, social intelligence, ability to connect to others in a deep and direct way, to sense and stimulate reactions and desired interactions from others. Most simply, the best effective communication skills, cross-cultural competence, new media literacy, design mindset, and virtual collaboration. These are some of the important things which the future workforce needs. And COVID has made it much more clear that you need to have the ability for virtual collaboration, cross-cultural competence, social intelligence, etc. And I request the teachers to recognize and identify if there are other areas also which need to be stressed on more than the pre-COVID phase, so that you can give importance to those in your lesson planning and impart the skills to your students. Let's move to the next slide. So all has not changed. Everything is not chaotic. First, if we have confidence in that, we can instill and imbibe the same confidence in our learners too. Please make a note of the skills and areas which you have already been focusing on. This is the task. Identify areas, if any, where you need to update yourselves and encourage your learners. Jot down any other academic aspects which have not been included in my speech, because your orientation of your learners, the reassurance you give them, requires you to have confidence in what you yourselves feel, think, and know. So this is a win-win situation when you reorient yourselves and help your learners. So this is the first task. Please make a note of the skills and areas which Geetam has already been stressing, which are useful for the future. And if there are any other areas which I haven't mentioned, but you are already upskilling. Okay. So what is the orientation you need to give to your students? There are many changes. There will be a new normal anyway. Not the normal of going to the campus, shouting, hugging friends, making fun in the classroom. That normal may not be here in the near future at least. So for their own good, they need to adapt and adopt themselves for this new normal, and they should look up to their mentors, the teachers, the institution, so that they will always give the support needed for them to adapt to the new scenario. So this is the confidence you must instill in your learners. All is not lost. People who are ready for the unexpected are always the winners. And for that, the ability to think critically is very, very important. That's why critical thinking is one of the most important skills. And this is the best ways in which you can make your students think of any problem without panicking is a way out for them. What has been learned so far is not a waste. Need to be lifelong learners, ready for unseen challenges. So what they have learned, let them first make a list. And what they need to learn. So this is like a SWOT analysis. Let each of your students do a SWOT analysis or a SWOC analysis, whatever you call, and make them ready for the future. This depends on how you motivate them. Before motivating them, we were talking about slow learners, advanced learners, not me, but from the questions asked, and we all know in any class, it's not homogeneous. There will be different kinds of learners. And in this new scenario where you don't have opportunities to interact face to face, observe their body language, observe their other reactions as a group and as individuals, I think it's always better for us to know our learners. How well do we know our learners, our primary stakeholders? Here, we are going to the next part, the Z factor. Yesterday's sessions, I don't know what was taught because I was busy with some other program and I missed them. So if this has already been discussed, it's very easy for you. Even otherwise, it's not difficult. And the same opinions, but expressed by different resource persons need not be considered as a repetition, but as an expression of an idea in different ways by different speakers. And you can make an amalgamation of all those and take the best whole. The Z factor. Do we belong to the Z generation? No. Maybe you belong to the X or Y, and maybe I belong to the even previous Bhishma generation. I don't know, but I surely don't belong to the Z factor, the Z generation. And ball is in whose court? Anyway, every time we feel responsible for encouraging the adolescent stakeholders, for motivating the stakeholders, for telling them what is right and what is wrong, for telling them about the career opportunities, this, that. So, like parenting, parents at home also, then Indian parents, they don't leave their children to make choices of their own because always they feel that their experience, their wisdom definitely is going to give better alternatives and better choices for their students. This is absolutely right, I agree. But same is the case with your learners also. And while I'm not speaking about individual learners, I'm talking about the Z generation. And ball is in whose court anyway? Is it only your responsibility to go on guiding, boarding, and motivating your learners? Or should there be a stretched hand from that side also? to accept what you are taking. And if we are enthusiastic to give something, how can we make them also enthusiastic to receive what we are giving? So this also, I once again take ball is in our court only. Let us think it that way. Huh? For this, if the ball is in your court, if you are the motivator, if you are the mentor, the key to your success in orienting your students is in a scarce commodity, which is a 5-letter word which starts with T and ends with T. Is it a 5-letter word or a 6-letter word? Can you guess what it is? T-R-U-S-T. Trust. It's a 5-letter word. Okay. So the key to success is trust. Do we trust our learners is a question in private and secret. Don't think I'm being sarcastic. Do they trust us is a question also. So trust once again should be from both sides. And the ball is not in just our court. The ball is like a throw ball. You throw it their side, they throw it your side. It's not going to stay static in our court. And how active this game goes on, so successful will the motive be. The goals will be reached. Let's learn what this Z factor is. Is it in the hands of the teachers or the learners? It's a give and take. And there's a need for introspection, retrospection, unlearning, and relearning. That's why I told you, let your students have a SWOT analysis. Let them use their metacognitive skills on how they have succeeded so far, what they need to do, how they need to change, all these. Because this is the time for them to do this unlearning and relearning process, just as you yourselves are doing some unlearning and relearning. And if you don't think that this quote is irrelevant, I think it is highly relevant now. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. It's not just Aristotle. The same quotation has been repeated in different words by the Dalai Lama, and all of us agree with that. So, post-COVID scenario requires every educational institution to give greater importance, I think. If you have already given, well and good, greater importance in spirit, not just on records, for educating the heart of your students also. This should start, I don't know from whose quote. I'm leaving it to you. True education comes from a passion for learning. So once again, how you motivate your students is not just to complete the syllabus. If you can ignite their minds, if you can make the spark come out once brightly, they have so many sources now, and they'll definitely move forward. So it's not just your ball, it is a give and take. So let us know our learners before venturing to reorient. The Generation Z and education. It is the connected life generation. Through internet, through their cell phones, through their WhatsApp, through their Facebook, through their Twitter, through whatnot. They are not connected with their families, maybe with their parents, but they are definitely connected with the rest of the world. And 35% of the Generation Z, more than a third of Gen Z believe regarding education, user-generated content will have more credibility than company or education institution created content in the near future. So my dear teachers, our students are really very, very obedient or timid. I don't know. They may have these ideas, but they will not share them with you. When you give them a feedback, normally they give all very good remarks. But if you have a chance to open up with them and give them the chance to open up without the fear of being criticized or punished, they also would surely share these ideas with you. They think that user generated content, authentic content from outside is more genuine and interesting. And 60%, majority of the Generation Z is open to incorporating virtual reality into their experience with movies, shows, and games. This trend will extend into the learning environment as students expect an immersive educational approach that provides practical experience in their chosen field. So whether it's a car race like in a game, or building some structures, or doing experiments, or whatever it is, Generation Z will be more comfortable, enthusiastic if you can incorporate VR into their experiences. Here, once again, I'm talking about what the students shared with me. I'm not giving you the names, but it's a genuine interaction. They said the online classes, the teachers, they were very cautious, The teachers are doing their best. What else can they do? They are trying to give us the best knowledge possible in this time. We are thankful to them. But there's a but there. The classes are very boring, We feel sleepy. We wonder why when we watch a TV program or a movie, we don't feel sleepy. This is the opinion expressed by them. And I think it matches this observation and survey, which is included here. And the next point Generation Z wants is personalization. 38% of Gen Z prefers personalization, is assumed and generally viewed as more effective. Online ads, personalization should extend to education marketing, which can improve effectiveness when presented in the right context. So, what do they get from this class? What is the benefit of this to that particular learner? And how is it going to help him in the real world once he leaves the campus? Let him experience, let him do it, let him learn. So Generation Z requires or prefers this kind of learning. And if there are areas where our institutions can include this, see, a mother prepares dishes knowing the taste of the children. We also should try to modify our learning methods more and more to match the taste of the Z generation, which is highly technical, advanced, and connected. It's a connected life generation. Hope this point is taken positively. And there are some other key findings regarding the Generation Z. The Z generation is more global. It is under the influence of technology. It is more demanding, eager to stand out. That's why they use the Facebook. They are after the likes, how many likes they got, the TikTok or whatever, and they are after personal experiences. And luckily, some are pro-social also. The responsibility of building the society and making the society a better place is what they want. So this is the next thing. Not only now, when I said about trust, this is one of the important points which I have always had a discussion with during my service, and I was never wrong. Don't underestimate your learners. Here is a quotation from the younger generation. Don't underestimate me. I know more than I say, think more than I speak, and notice more than you realize. Never underestimate anyone, because the one you think is a silent spark can instead be a fierce fire in disguise. These are really shocking comments and observations, but that's the truth. The younger adolescent generation, which we are trying to now orient post-COVID, is not really that innocent, nor is it incapable. Only thing is, we should channelize their energy. We should recognize their capabilities. And unfortunately, the percentage of mood disorders and suicide-related outcomes have increased significantly among adolescents and young adults. The latest news is always a proof of this. And staying in isolation at home without interacting with their friends is another reason why they are more depressed. And if they immediately do not respond to your learning techniques, it doesn't mean that they are slow learners. We know that their hearts and minds are elsewhere. Such a big gap. Maybe if this academic year is made a 0 year, it would be better. But I'm not the one to decide. We want to move forward. We don't want to spoil the future of our learners. So how best we can bring them back on track by winning their trust and recognizing the silent spark in them. The world, all of us are thinking of ameliorating this problem, reducing this problem. And that's where orientation or reorientation of our learners, our youngsters, comes and takes a prime seat. For this, establishing trust, being empathic listening is the best thing a teacher can ever have. It makes him a friend, a facilitator, a mentor. And among some of the qualities for best teachers, not qualities of best teachers as the teachers expect, but qualities of best teachers as students expect. I'm focusing on that because you are going to orient your students. When there was a world survey on what are the qualities of best teachers, when students were asked by the United Nations, one of the top qualities was a sense of humor, not sarcastic humor, but making the class lively, and empathy, apart from knowledge, discipline, and other good qualities which all teachers want. So when the student community itself is distressed, I think the supporters, the family, the peers, the teachers, the organization need to have more empathy. The essence of empathic listening is not that you agree with someone. It's that you fully, deeply understand that person emotionally as well as intellectually. I'm not going to explain this further, but whether it's your own child or your child in the institution, unless you can extend an ear of empathy, they will not come forward with their problems. They will just hush them up. So you can have their trust through empathy. Trust is a dicey subject. Everyone wants to be trusted, but only few people are willing to put in the work to show themselves trustworthy. And we all know it, both as students and as teachers. I wouldn't like to go into many examples. And I wouldn't like to say that humanities teachers are more empathic than science teachers. I'm not going into such personal subjective comments. It's the requirement of every teacher at any level. And here are some of the strategies for effective mentor-mentee relationships, where you commit to each other. Before the student commits to you, you must commit to the student. Develop trust. Plan your goals. Don't dictate. Plan your goals. So there's some autonomy. There's some sharing and identifying the interest, skills, potential, fears, and dreams. Plan your roles and responsibilities also, so that the ball is not just in their court or your court. And collaborate for results. This is a very tough process. When it is tough to win the confidence of one or two children in your family itself. I know it's gone after the mentor-mentee relationship, according to the institution ends. If that is the kind of trust, it's not trust at all. So with reduced face-to-face and regarding motivation, whether you're going to motivate them for intrinsic, the active learners, see, the wise don't need advice and the unwise don't heed advice. Same is the case here too. The self-motivated student, the active learner, is always on the lookout for opportunities. Those who really need our orientation and support are the average and the below average learners mostly. So how can you ignite their intrinsic motivational potential, and what kind of extrinsic motivation the institution, the teachers, the other members in the society, and how you can encourage their parents also to motivate them. This becomes a challenge for the teachers. So the institutional motivation, faculty motivation, the peers, the family, the society, and the media. What kind of observations are drastically influencing the younger generation? We already know. So how can we supplement that with positive motivation, either through positive videos or guest lectures or something where they feel a bond with what they are listening instead of getting depressed? This is a long-term plan for the organization and the teachers. Here, in the teaching learning process, in the class, what kind of encouragement we give becomes very, very important. How we appreciate. And your class now is a virtual class mostly, but that doesn't mean that on face-to-face classes are totally abolished. I'm sure there will be a percentage of students and opportunity for you to interact face-to-face for some time with a limited number of students as per what we observe. So utilize that time to make up for what you couldn't interact in your online sessions. And if not, take time out for encouraging them with a word of appreciation, not false appreciation, because they can see through your false appreciation. They are not really that innocent or ignorant. They know that this is just a drama. If you are going to say that all is well with them, when they themselves know that there is something to be improved. So let us be honest. Let us, however, communicate our suggestions in positive vocabulary, not a spirit of criticism, but approval. Here, my dear friends, I have jumbled both the immediate plans as well as the long-term plans, the roadmap, because I feel your short-term goals should lead you to your long-term objectives and goals. It is not like doing away with something today and starting again tomorrow. An institution cannot do that, nor can we in our lives. So there is an undercurrent of connectivity between what we plan for the post-COVID unlockdown orientation of your students, as well as their long-term goals and the institution's vision and mission. The roadmap is not disturbed, but the priorities in the short-term goals and the long-term goals may slightly vary. So improving effective communication skills is very, very important, whether it's tomorrow or for the future. Learning digital etiquette, very important, because you also must have observed this is a new phase for all of us, like work from home, working from your home for the class, the digital classrooms. What kind of etiquette is necessary? What kind of words you need to use? What kind of response your learners need to give? On this, as the previous experts have already mentioned, as you are having an FDP, even your students should have an SDP or student development program, how they should do it. This orientation and bridge course is essential for them. And focus on knowledge than certificates. For this, as the Generation Z has already mentioned, we need to see that they get involved in what's happening, because the future career opportunities are not based on their certificates from whatever university, but their core knowledge competence. And because this is for the post-COVID unlockdown, respect for social distancing and healthcare is one of the short-term goals which has to be focused on, both for the teachers and the learners. I'm sure this topic will be discussed at length in the respective sessions of the healthcare experts and professors. Utilize time judiciously. This is in your SWOT too. How well have you spent this extra leisure time? What skills have you developed in this? Becomes an identification mark, a standard to judge your how you value time. In all the future interviews for the rest of your lives, the time you spent during this COVID period judiciously in enhancing your skills is going to represent your ability to think as an individual and be a self-motivated learner. This is what you should encourage your students to realize, because what is in them? Not just a certificate in their file, something for them to show that they are lifelong learners. And this learning or digital learning, these online classes, they give them an opportunity to move at a pace or style that fits them. It's not as if they miss a class and they lose something. You have the recorded cassettes or the online material, which they can use as per their convenience, listen to that repeatedly and benefit from it. So this is an advantage which you can share with them and encourage them. Survey new career opportunities, because the world's requirements post-COVID are changing. And how well can they enhance their skills and knowledge, enhance their technical skills and life skills, be responsible, accountable, socially acceptable, ethical citizens. Ethical is a word which we all need to stress again and again, not just in our lectures, but in our behavior, everywhere, every moment, because this is something which doesn't leave like a quote when we leave the classes. And that's what we need to tell our learners too, because what all they have observed in the COVID pandemic phase must have educated them regarding the importance of ethics for their own survival in the future. How to balance their work and life without getting overstressed at a very young age. Encourage them to overcome pessimism and cynicism because they may think there's no future. There is a future. There are opportunities. There is positivity. There are good people. There are good chances. Accept the inevitable changes positively and be ready for the new normal. So some of them are immediate short-term objectives, some are long-term, a roadmap. What among these are short-term and what help in the long term, you can decide and help your learners. Your teaching learning is not different from your motivational ability, including these points in whatever you do in the classes. So the new normal. This is the third part of my lecture. Embracing the new normal, one step at a time. This is for my dear teachers also. It's not just for the learners. My dear nation builders and teachers, you are also the stakeholders. You also need transparency. And you need to give opportunities of equity and equality for the new normal to your learners. Here, because we have already heard the previous session, some of the students may not be having the facilities to access the internet, the facilities to go online whenever necessary. So identifying such learners, giving them opportunities to utilize whatever is there, or going one step ahead and seeing that they get those facilities becomes the responsibility of the institution before your teaching learning process becomes a success. So all the steps in this process have to be first identified. Whether your learners have the access to it, have the inclination to it, their individual likes and dislikes and fears or overconfidence, all these, and how you're going to make the platform one where there is no bias. In the rush to return to normal, use this time to consider which parts of normal are worth rushing back to. So we all grieve that times have changed. But if we are going to go back, are there some things which we would like to leave? If there are things which we want to leave, let us identify what those are in your teaching learning process, in your institutional educational environment, in the professional goals. What are the things which need to be replaced? This is the time for you to reconsider and evolve to the new normal of e-learning. This is going to stay globally, nationally, institutionally, individually too, because we have taken this step, the paradigm shift, and there's no going back. So how are we going to use this e-learning in a better way? The previous experts have already told you about the infinite opportunities right now. And we have seen how the Generation Z loves it. So how we are going to make our classes as interesting, if not more interesting, than a TV show or something else, it depends on us. Technology can become the wings that will allow the educational world to fly farther and faster than ever before. The clause is, if we will allow it. So, technology, like science, it's there. But how we are going to allow it? What opportunities are we going to utilize for that? How are we going to give access to that to all our students? And how are we going to change our assessment and evaluation methods when we use this new technology? These are the wings which we should grow and let our students grow too. So, in orienting your learners, let your learners know that their learning experience is now different. There's no chance of going back to the campus as they did earlier. But in this new environment, they have more choices. So there is more flexibility. There is more independent autonomy in their selection too. They need to be self-motivated. This is something a bit difficult for the spoon-fed students. But now they have to start working, taking little steps at least with your support. Need self-direction depending on their own strengths and weaknesses. However, within the purview and vision of the organization. So here, as teachers, you are going to give them a sense of direction, regulate their choices, and see that their independence doesn't become unruly. Grieving over the missed campus life is not going to pay right away. No. So that's what I told your students when they spoke with me. Grieving over the campus, oh, we lost 1 year of our campus life because we can't meet our friends, we can't have our college playground, etc. No sports, no extracurricular activities. Right. This is a crisis. And how we survive in this crisis, what kind of positivity we retain in this crisis is going to make us the best survivors, ready for the future. So, how you're going to use your technology to give a voice to your learners. So earlier, the focus was on how you're going to use your technology to impart knowledge through blended learning or giving them projects, etc., etc. So use your technology to give a voice which they never had before. Opportunities to be actively involved in the learning experience. For that, give them a voice, ask them what they want, and see how you can accommodate their choices too. And this is what NAC also wants. And this is what future education expects. So what I'm saying is not contrary to what the experts have already designed and dictated. So respected teachers, be creative in your designing of your lesson plans in this new environment, whether it is online, asynchronous or synchronous, group or individual, whatever. This is an opportunity for you to be more creative. Welcome their creativity also. Be flexible. No need to explain. Encourage interaction in a positive way. So my request to all the teachers is your tone and intonation, your pitch, the word choice, they all matter a lot. Encourage collaboration, online projects, research, and you must design your assessment and evaluation tools to meet the new demands while promoting integrity, avoiding plagiarism. This is a great threat. Never losing sight of the real world's challenges into which they are going to face. So your classroom may be virtual, but the problems are real, and the world they are going to face is also real. Preparing them for the real world through your virtual classes is a challenge for you, and orienting them to be ready to accept what you are sharing wholeheartedly with them is what this orientation requires. I don't think I need to repeat what has been mentioned in this slide. You're all tech savvy teachers, and you must be doing this on a regular basis, finding out about the latest education technology, seeing which tools work best for your students, discover what global colleagues are doing. Maybe Geetam does it. I have no idea. There are many other professional institutes also which are yet lagging behind here, but this is something we need to move forward to and thoroughly test the products and trends which are the latest, identify the goals and key performance indicators. So when you use a lesson, when you use a tool, whether it is interesting because it is good or the latest, or whether it is useful for the program and course objectives and goals and your learning techniques, making this choice is once again your own discrimination. Visit conferences and see what others are saying. You're already doing it. Share thoughts on social media, blogs, and more. I'm sure you must be into it by now. Deep dive into analytics to see what's working and what's not just for you, but for the rest of the world in the teaching community. And constantly research, testing, and learning. So these things you must be doing, my dear teachers. And it's time for us to get updated. There's no end for this learning process. So what the new normal expects from teachers while orienting or reorienting their students is, when you provide a platform of equity and equality, I think you can give an opportunity for your learners also to teach you where they are experts in some technology and where you are a learner. This makes them highly motivated. You can encourage them to participate in the teaching process also. They may have a choice in the method of learning. Use of all proactive, positive communication channels for interactive learning. So they lost something and they should be compensated for that by a more proactive, positive environment online. The teaching processes are consistent and inclusive. Consistent and inclusive, creative are not mutually exclusive or opposites. The standards and goals of your teaching process should not be compromised. And the inclusivity of seeing that all the learners benefit from your teaching should not be compromised. How you do it in your teaching learning process requires you to be more open to your students' requirements. Encourage their collaboration. Risk-taking, moving out of comfort zones. This is for the teachers, because if you are going to limit yourself to the methods which you learned earlier or which you are learning now, maybe you will never be an innovator. Depending on the situation, always have other plans also. Try them. They may work sometimes better than one you had planned for. Let the student feedback genuinely count. I don't want to go into a discussion on this. I sincerely request you to see that there's transparency and real value in the feedback you get from your students. And regarding your assessment and evaluation, your feedback should be a true feed forward. I'm sure you know what a feed forward is. Once they don't have a teacher to pat them on their back and appreciate, the comments you give should motivate them to improve themselves. So this is where you went wrong, is like giving a feedback. This is the marks you are awarded. These are the marks you are awarded because this is how you perform, is also a feedback. A feed forward always gives them hints and cues how they can improve from where they are. What are the areas where they missed? So if your evaluation and assessment can be a feed forward in these times of virtual blankets, it will be of great help to your learners. Learning is to be ready for the world, for the unknown. This they should always remember. So this is the new normal through your orientation, which all your students may inculcate. One of the best or one of the most important concerns of the learners was about the career opportunities once the unlockdown process commences. So creating awareness about the global opportunities, the STEM era, where science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are the rulers, the startups, how there is more and more opportunity for entrepreneurial skills and startups. This is the area of soft skills reigning, because in this, where it's a virtual world, you may be interacting with global partners, global teams, and your soft skills, unless they are up to the mark, your career opportunities dwindle down. Sustainability is the benchmark. So when you think of entrepreneurship, or when you think of any progress or any plan, it's not the institutional progress alone. You are a part of the globe, and sustainability is the benchmark for your progress. So developing sustainable ethics is not just doing social service to someone, but serving yourself. Social networking is the key. Leverage this LinkedIn and other social media for job opportunities. More than the placement campus drives, now your career opportunities, your career hunt can be done by yourself by updating your profile on the LinkedIn. And this is something I think we need to encourage, because some of the students with whom I spoke from your institutions, a few of them have a LinkedIn profile which is updated, but some of them don't. I think maybe we can encourage some platforms where their profile can be there and they can have a digital resume too. Cooperating with artificial intelligence is the future. So machine learning, artificial intelligence, how they focus on these. This also has to be told. Lifelong learning and shifting jobs go hand in hand. You know what the students' immediate concern was? How are interviews going to be? We don't have face-to-face interviews, probably, at least our batch. And if there's going to be a group discussion, what changes have to be followed if the virtual group discussion takes place? What is the etiquette we need to maintain in telephonic interviews, which are going to be the deciding factors? We need to know more about our interview skills, because as soon as the unlockdown process commences and we go back or are virtually available, we need to know about our career opportunities and the skills we need to hone. I think this is where the institution and the teachers also may lay immediate stress. And the work from home culture, it may be the norm. So prepare your students for the WFH and tell them the job they get when they leave the campus is not going to be the only job. Their cheese goes on moving. Their learning has to move on, and they have to be lifelong learners. Their skills, technology, knowledge updating is a continuous process. So I'm here mentioning an international opinion, a national opinion, and asking you about your individual opinion. This is the third task. So impact of COVID-19 on international higher education studies and forecasts. It is the International Association of Universities, the global voice of higher education, and what they think is important in our focus post-COVID. A better post-COVID-19 world requires democratic, civic universities. That's why I've been focusing again and again on a humane aspect, the ethical aspect, equity and equality, to producing knowledge and educating ethical, empathetic students for just and sustainable democratic societies. So this should be the institutional objective, and the teaching learning process also should include this objective. If your students need to be acceptable, responsible students, citizens of the future, the global village. The next point, this is a reassurance for you, and probably this is a hope. This is at the national level from the Hindu. Even in the post-COVID-19 era, offline or conventional education models will not become obsolete. They will survive. However, blended learning, a combination of classroom and online modes, will be the norm. Institutions and teachers will blend the two judiciously according to the context and the content. So, all is not lost, is another opinion. This is the national level opinion of experts. And now, as individual experts participating in this program, as learned individuals in this responsible field, please share 2 or 3 areas of priority that make teaching learning a win-win scenario post-COVID. Because you're all experienced faculty members. Participating in this FDP is very, very good. It is to refresh your ideas. You're not in an induction program, I'm sure. So, what do you feel for the teaching learning process to be a success post-COVID? What areas should be stressed? Please make a note. I've come to my last slide where I'm just showing you that these were the 3 areas: changes versus constant, the Z factor, and the new normal. These were the 3 factors into which I divided my presentation. And now I welcome interaction. Kashya? Rava? I want to see my photo.
Ma'am, thank you. This is Dr. K.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam. You were enlightening the session with some good knowledge imparted to the participants, especially. Your lecture is so good, and we are getting very benefit from your words and valuable inputs, madam. And a few questions to you, madam. They are posted by the participants. May I read it, ma'am? Is it audible?
Yes, please. Please, it's audible, please.
Yes. Ma'am, one participant, her name is Uma Devi. She's wrote a long note like this, but anyhow, I'm briefing about that particular question, intention of her question. What is that? This is the situation of the COVID, and most of the colleges are not updated to the online sessions. Okay, especially there is no technological inputs are also not there in that institutions, maximum institutions, as well as they are not, that means giving some much salaries to the faculty members are also, they are almost more maximum colleges. But at these situations, the 100% online classes are is going to be successful, or it is a way to go. Is there any other way to go? Is there any possibilities like that? She is noted a briefing, man. Yeah.
I think the question should be answered by the institutions. Huh?
Yes, yes,
Because
yes.
this is a problem all over the country where institutions are unable to pay salaries on time, and that is uh, defeating the morale of the teachers too.
Yes,
Because,
that's true.
their own future is uncertain.
Yeah.
When
Yes.
higher institutions are like this, the lower level roadside schools are closed also. Some
Yes,
of them
yes.
are closed. There
Yes,
are no salaries for any of the teachers, and there's no guarantee that they'll be taken back. Because
Yes.
one teacher online can substitute for many teachers in the class.
Yes.
That's happening. So the teachers also should reconsider their skills, and they should be the wanted persons by enhancing their skills, so that if they leave this place, if their soft skills and technological skills are good, they will be called for elsewhere,
Yes.
because they have to change places, because they can't survive without salaries.
Yes.
And an institution cannot expect expertise and 100% involvement as well as 100% results when they don't provide the basic infrastructure and training. All the programs by our government also, they lag behind because the initial training necessary for the teachers in the continuous assessment process or online classes, that is not provided to them.
Yes.
I agree with that, man, but
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think
But some of the good colleges are maintaining standards, ma'am. They're also trying. They are going to be updated. So that is
yes,
going on now.
that's why I appreciated this Geetam Institute for its FDP.
Yes, madam. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations to you. But what
Yeah.
about the answers to the questions I posed? Isn't there anyone to give me answers for what I asked?
No more, ma'am.
That's why. You see, even when a teacher asks questions, the teachers here who are students,
Yeah.
even after my mentioning, they are not ready to answer. That
Yeah.
is just to show you that this is what happens even in our online classes.
Okay.
And the teacher should not get irritated. They should repeat, they should find another opportunity, which is
Yes.
not possible for me because my session is only for 1 hour. But if a teacher faces the same scenario, there should be other techniques to elicit the answers from the students.
Yes, ma'am.
Make it
Yes.
more interesting. Right.
Madam, another question from Dr. Padmaja. In your lecture, you are using educating hearts. What is the meaning of that educating hearts? In what way you are saying this? Like that, she was
Because there are innumerable examples even during the COVID time where lack of concern for the fellow humans, lack of concern for the environment, that is the reason why we are now in this situation, is the general observation world over.
Okay.
They are all experts. And to give you a specific example, the bureaucrat mother and father and the foreign returned son from Calcutta who were infected with COVID positive, they behaved in such a way that so many people who met them got infected. And they never felt the responsibility that once they were declared positive, it is their responsibility to stay away from others and not infect. This is just a single example of education without a heart. They are in very high positions, they are highly educated, even IAS and IFS, but their ego, their hypocrisy made them a danger to the society. This is just an example which I am quoting. And our future generation, whether it uses the technology which they get or whether it misuses the environmental opportunities which they get, all are going to impact the whole world. COVID is only the first step, the tip of the iceberg, they say. So educating the heart is very, very important. And how we do it through our teaching, value-based learning becomes an important component. I hope I'm clear.
One more question, madam. This is from Dr. Nizwam Sona Bharo. Madam, could you please enlighten us how to enhance life skills? Does moral education enhance life skills?
See, you are not making them into watertight compartments. And one more thing, every time people say teaching the syllabus, completing the projects itself is taking so much time. So where is the time for us for life skills? Where is the time for morals? I don't think we need to separate them into watertight compartments, sir. Our behavior, our words, the way you give them an opportunity to think about what is happening around and spare some time for them to share their ideas. This is a wonderful platform for them to enhance their social skills. The team work which you give, or any other projects which you give, the way you appreciate, the way you yourself are a role model is the beginning for them to develop their social skills and morals. One Kalam has motivated the nation for years to come. If we can be at least 100% of such a great teacher, because we are in that noble profession, we can automatically motivate our students to be enhancing their moral values and social skills. Social skills is not something which you learn with a training for 1 month or 1 week. That is just a superficial face mask. What your social skills are is what you are.
Okay, ma'am. Madam,
You
one
do
more
it
question.
regularly.
Yeah.
Yes.
One question, ma'am, from same Dr. Padmaja Narla. Madam, the time allotted for course syllabus, is it sufficient for personalized education?
That's what I'm saying just now. Just now was talking about. So in this, your personalized education, I think now has more time because it is not limited to 45 minutes and 40 students.
Yeah.
In your classrooms, it was 45 minutes or 50 minutes or 60 minutes. And once they leave the class, it's over. But maybe in these virtual classrooms, in the time you take to interact with them, you can identify people who need your support more than those. And maybe you can identify some positive students who are ready to help those who are weak, either emotionally upset. Again and again, now we realize that the emotionally upset students need more support, more counseling, and not just the teacher's one word, but their peer support too. So having a peer support group, it can't be a general peer support group which supports all the students. You should know those people personally. Then maybe you can support them not only in their emotional progress, but even in their academics. This is something which is one-to-one, sir, which cannot be generalized and given as a lesson plan for everyone. The situations differ, but it depends once again on the genuine concern of the teacher. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, madam. It's a wonderful session with you, and we are very happy, especially as a Geetam University Bangalore campus chemistry department is very happy, and we are all are meeting you, ma'am. You are a very experienced, a very senior person. Okay, we are having a very rich moments. Thank you very much, madam. And session is hand over to Venkatnath sir, Professor Venkatnath sir. Sir, please hold over the session. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Venkatratnam, and thank you, Vijayalakshmi madam. Thank you, sir.
It is Varalakshmi, not Vijayalakshmi.
Sorry.
It is
Varalakshmi madam garu. Oh yeah, Varalakshmi madam garu for sparing your valuable time, madam. And all the participants already, madam garu has given her PowerPoint presentation. They are made available in the Google Drive. Similarly, the case with the Rajnikant, Professor Rajnikant sir also. So in addition to that, whatever the YouTube video recordings, their corresponding links are also made available. So I request all of you, please go through it and accordingly give your feedback as well as your assessment information. Okay, thank you.
Even
thank you,
my mail ID also is there. My mail ID is there.
Yes,
so
madam.
even if they share their opinions through mail, it's welcome.
Definitely, madam. Definitely, madam. Thank you. Thank you, Ananda. Please give your feedback and please try to fill the assignments also. So tomorrow, let us meet again at morning 10 o'clock. Thank you. Thank you, Ananda.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Details of tomorrow's session are given here. So tomorrow we have 2 more sessions. First session will be by Professor K.G. Srinivasa on blended teaching, and the second one will be by Dr. K. Meghana about eye health and online classes. So this is about information of tomorrow's class. So if any one of you having any doubt, they can email and we will respond to you accordingly. Thank you very much.